Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first Influence Stories of 2021. I am so excited to be back on the air. And today, kicking off our new year, I want to introduce Steve Wernick. He is with Wernick & Co. and also he is part of the Wynwood Community Enhancement Association. Community Enhancement Association. And we're very excited to have him here today because he's going to talk about some great things that are coming to this neighborhood that you might not even know is there, but it is in the heart of Miami. It is in a very important area in South Florida, as it's right in the heart of everything. And it has a fantastic history that when I learned about it, I immediately wanted to share it. So Steve, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So tell me a little bit about when we talk about Wynwood Norte, what are we talking about? What area in the city of Miami? Because I think a lot of people can already relate to Wynwood. So where is Wynwood Norte?
So Wynwood Norte is north of Northwest 29th Street, north of the old warehouse district. It's immediately west of Midtown and east of I-95. In fact, it's really the origins of Wynwood. Roberto Clemente Park is at the heart of the neighborhood. And this is the neighborhood where a lot of the working class folks that, whether they were coming to Miami from other countries or, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, over the years, it's housed a lot of different groups who were working in the garment district, working in the factories, the warehouses, and really its heyday was probably 1940s, 1950s, 1960s. So it's right in the heart of the city of Miami, and it is a part of Wynwood. It's the origins of Wynwood, really.
So that is a really very diverse area. As we walked through it the other day, it was great to see all the things that have the history of Miami. Like you said, there have been families that have been living there for decades, but now it's becoming a place because it's so centric. It's so close to downtown. It's so close to Wynwood. You're right there from all of the I-95 and 836, Miami Beach access. It's a very important part of the city of Miami. Really kind of like the new place that we need to look at. What is the Wynwood CEA? And for everyone that is watching this, you can see their social media handles scrolling, and I encourage you to follow them so that you can see what this is about. Because I'm a firm believer that we all need to be involved with how we create our city, and so that we can have the city that we want to live in and we want to raise our kids in. And tell us a little bit about, because I believe by speaking to so many of the members in the Wynwood CEA, that this is really what they're doing. They're all becoming involved, the city where they grew up and where they live. So tell us a little bit about the Wynwood CEA and who makes up this Community Enhancement Association.
Absolutely. So the Wynwood Community Enhancement Association has been active now for about 2.5 years. We recognized at the time that things were changing around this neighborhood. There was a lot of deferred maintenance. There's been a lot of neglect over the years in this older neighborhood. And now there's a lot of changes going on. Midtown, or the Wynwood Arts District. You've got, the talk about the train, bringing the train from Miami to Fort Lauderdale and where the stops might be in between. We recognized that this neighborhood needed attention. It needs improvements and reinvestment, and it also needs a voice. And so the association was really meant to be a voice for current, future residents, small businesses, to improve the neighborhood, reinvest in the neighborhood, and improve the quality of life for everybody. It's a diverse neighborhood, and that's really the power of it, is that you've got amazing community-based organizations like the Bakehouse, the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce, Mission San Juan Batista, all these great organizations, but they really didn't have a way to work together formally, specifically in the neighborhood. They were working with their own populations. The DeHosto Center is another one. So now, through this association, what's been amazing is to see all these different community groups pull together, rely on one another, lean on one another, and help one another to improve the neighborhood. Whether it's helping people that are living in the neighborhood to get resources that they need, or if it's physical improvements like more trash cans in the neighborhood, or now we're looking at adding crosswalks to improve the safety for pedestrians. So there's a lot of great things going on, and I'm proud to be part of the association, to be just working with all the great people that are coming together over these last couple of years.
And you mentioned specifically the Puerto Rican Chamber of Commerce. There, I also met a lot of the residents and small business owners that are in the area. And as it happens, I had no idea that there is quite the Puerto Rican and Hispanic roots in that area. So tell us a little bit about that background, why that area, and what could this mean as we look at the development of this kind of like, to me, it's a little bit of a secret hidden gem in the city of Miami. And so tell me a little bit about that history.
Yeah, so for many years, it was referred to as Little San Juan. The Puerto Rican population, it was probably after World War II, primarily, when it really started becoming a place that the Puerto Rican population was coming. There were a lot of jobs at the time. The bakehouse at that time was a bread factory. That's why it's called the Bakehouse. The Bakehouse Art Complex now. It's still there.
It's a beautiful, beautiful restored area for artists. It's a great place in the middle of the city. They had no idea it existed. So
absolutely.
So tell me more. Keep going. Sorry for interrupting you. I just wanted to draw attention to the Bakehouse.
Yeah, it's just one of the many great stories in the neighborhood. But the population, the homes is a mix of residential buildings, right? You have there are a handful of old single family homes that date back to probably the 20s. You've got duplex, triplex, some apartment buildings. It's similar in many ways to Little Havana. It's from that era when neighborhoods were built with a school and a church and shops and everything that you need in your daily life before the car really started dominating our development patterns. And because I think in large part because of the park, because it's so central to the neighborhood. In my office, I have the original plat, which goes back to 1917. So it's 100 years ago. And there's alleys. Many of the alleys that were originally platted are still there. They've been cleaned up, and there's a bike path that kind of runs through the neighborhood. So that the Puerto Rican population was largely working in Buena Vista Yards, which is now Midtown, but it used to be like the rail hub in Miami. And then you had the warehouse district and the garment district to the south of 29th Street, and that was a big employment center. So probably starting in the late 60s and then the 70s, when they built I-95, and many of the factors that were part of the urban renewal process at that time in the 60s and 70s, which had a pretty damaging impact on many neighborhoods. Overtown was very much affected. Wynwood was also affected by that. And then, some of the trade practices, for various reasons, the jobs started moving, right? Moving offshore, moving to other areas. So Wynwood as this bustling, industrial manufacturing type district, it started to go into decline. Many of the jobs left. So Wynwood really started experiencing a lot of problems, whether it was drugs or crime, other things, into the 70s and 80s. The Puerto Rican population at that time had kind of been established, moved out to the suburbs, many of the families. There are some families that are still there. It's no longer predominantly a Puerto Rican neighborhood, but it still carries a lot of the names, Roberto Clemente Park.
That's right.
Eugenio DeHosto. The senior center is named after a very well-known community leader from the 1800s from Puerto Rico. Then you have people like Dottie Quintana, who was a community activist and lived into maybe 100, or she passed away about 15 years ago. But she was a huge influence. The community center at the park is named after her. So there's this history of, working class people. This was a home. It was also a place that other immigrants from other countries could come to and almost an Ellis Island or a gateway into Miami, because it was so centrally located, because it was generally an affordable place for working families to live. And it had a lot of resources at the park, at schools, churches. What's interesting today, it still has that public land ownership. I mean, the school board is the largest owner in the neighborhood. Miami-Dade County Public Housing Department owns over 8 acres of affordable housing sites. Some of them are very underutilized. Some of them are very old, need to be kind of brought up. So there's a big opportunity, because some of these schools are very under capacity. The population has declined, but it's because of its location, it creates this interesting opportunity to increase the affordable housing stock in Miami and for people living in the neighborhood, because there really aren't a lot of great housing opportunities for family. Very little new housing has been built. So we've got these challenges, we got these great opportunities, and that's been this process, is really continuing to learn about more and more of the history and how we can also preserve that character, because there's a desire, whether you talk to a resident or a small business owner, or it's a it's a landlord that's been in the neighborhood for a while, property owners, the public sector, everyone has a shared interest in making sure the community is able to stay and grow in the neighborhood, add more housing, but also keep this character alive. Right.
So let's talk about that. So the Wynwood Community Enhancement Association has been focusing on a vision of what they want for their own neighborhood. And this is so important, because sometimes, if we don't really, we've seen this a lot in Miami, we've seen it a lot in South Florida and all of Miami-Dade County, where if there's no real vision as to where we're going to go, then everything is just kind of being added as we go along. And I understand that the Wynwood CA has come together to create a vision of what they want their neighborhood to look like. As we walk through Wynwood Norte, we would see, the massive buildings that are kind of getting closer, and that's maybe not what the residents want, or what is it that they seek? I know that they got together. I understand that there's a plan or a vision that has been presented to the city commission, to the city of Miami commission. So what is this vision and how did it come about?
Yeah, the Wynwood Norte Community Vision Plan. This started in 2019. Again, it was recognizing a lot of these interesting dynamics and the change in demographics, the strengths, the opportunities. Plus Urbia Design, which is an urban design firm here in Miami. They have an office in Puerto Rico. They were a perfect fit to come in and be a facilitator and apply their expertise. But it was really the community, and it was executive directors at community organizations. It was residents. It was the principal from the middle school. We put together a couple of different workshops in the spring of 2019, where we were able to really identify all these opportunities, hear from all these different people, and we didn't really know where it would go from there, but it really just started a process that has continued even to today, which is just this ongoing dialogue, more and more people at every meeting getting involved. So it could be someone who's been in the neighborhood 30, 40 years, or someone who's been in the neighborhood 5 years. I think what people found was the process itself was valuable, because that is what the neighborhood was really lacking more than anything, was a vision and a voice. So this process became a way for people to be engaged, to talk about what their priorities were, and add, kind of educate. As everyone spoke, you could see the entire group becoming more interested, more engaged, more informed, because it's so diverse. Every person, every individual that was participating was adding something to the mix. Right. So that,
and I think I found a video. I'm going to put it in the comments for people to see, and be able to see it. We'll put them in the comments for people to see the video, and they could they could have a look at what this vision could look like.
Yeah. So to your question more directly, the vision for the neighborhood, first and foremost, it is to continue like having a voice that is inclusive in the neighborhood, right? That there's a vision that we want this neighborhood to be almost like a neighborhood that no matter who you are, no matter what your tie is to the neighborhood, if you're interested in seeing positive change, you're part of this if you want to be, right? And being very welcoming. And the other aspects of the vision, it's about increasing the housing opportunities for families. It's about economic opportunity for local business owners. This is a neighborhood where you've got a main street that has a very little foot traffic right now. It's challenging to have a business there, but the bones are there. And if we're increasing the housing, and that's going to create opportunities for businesses and restaurants, well, it's also an opportunity that we don't want to lose, which is to really keep that character. Ethnic restaurants, bakery, services for people in the community. So keeping that scale, that small scale, that village feel. Whereas the neighborhoods around Wynwood Norte, for the most part, are much larger in scale. You look at Edgewater, you look at Midtown, and there is a fear that, hey, if we don't put this down on paper, if we don't really have a vision that people can rally around, we're going to end up having this development at the edges that slowly just removes this unique character that everyone appreciates.
So where is that process right now?
Yeah, so the vision plan was presented to the City Commission in the fall of 2019, and it was received very well. And the commission gave direction to the city administration to study the implementation. Now, there's a lot of ideas in the vision plan. Some of them probably will require working with the school board and the county. So there's some longer term aspects, but we started working with the city administration, particularly the planning department, on creating a new zoning overlay district for the neighborhood, and also working on a parking program and a public benefits program, which is a tool that is geared towards reinvesting dollars back into the neighborhood. And also it's a way that this investment that might come in around the corridors where there's development opportunities and it's appropriate development, and that money can get put back into the parks, into the schools, help local business owners, help maintain existing affordable housing so we can keep that affordable housing stock, but also add new affordable workforce housing into
and that area is just perfect for workforce housing. Like you said, it's close to, for firefighters, for police officers, for teachers, for school board staff members, for City of Miami staff. And hopefully when the train does go through, it would add even more connectivity with all the different communities. And that is a big part of this vision. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's where it's located is one of its strengths. It also becomes part of that, fear of change. So I think what's been really rewarding about this process is to see a whole lot of people that had never participated or never worked with the planning department before, and to see them build that capacity, understand what they're capable of, and that this presented an opportunity that the community could lead that vision and then go to the city, to the county, ask for resources, implement ideas that they know can be helpful for their own community. And some of those ideas include, for example, a circulator. There's a decent senior population, And then there's the senior center. So there's seniors that actually come into the neighborhood. Well, if they wanted to get to, the Metro Rail station, today it would be a little confusing as to how you get to that station. Maybe that circulator becomes a resource where it takes you over to Alapata, or it takes you, to a new commuter rail station that might be built in the next couple of years. But it's also about walkability, fixing the sidewalks, the crosswalks for safety. So there's a lot of opportunities for connectivity in every direction. And I think some of that is long-term, but then there's also opportunities when new development comes in to widen the sidewalks, to add, a cross-block paseo through an extra long block that might be, additional shade, additional trees. So just looking for those opportunities. They all fit together. Some of those opportunities are short-term, some of them are long-term. But now with this legislation that's come forward as a result of this process, we're creating what's called the Wynwood Norte Neighborhood Revitalization District. But it all goes back to that vision plan. I mean, at the end of the day, everything that's in there, whether it's something that the planning department put in there or they're borrowing it, from another neighborhood where that program might exist, it's all, the test of it is all, how does this implement the community vision plan? How does this implement the goals and objectives of the community? And
now, where is it in the I guess legislative process? Where are we at
right now? Yeah, so the Neighborhood Revitalization District was brought forward in October to the City Commission. It was unanimously approved. There was a lot of community support, a lot of folks from the community speaking at that meeting. The legislation was sent up to the state agencies, which is required by Florida law, for the map changes. And that review was just completed, and no problems really came out of that. No issues at the state level or at the county level. So I think now the city is in the process of scheduling the final public hearing. So we should have a final public hearing coming up in the next month.
Oh, great. So, and this is the more I learned about this vision plan and the whole way that this has been handled is, I always tell people, people come to me and they say, oh, this is happening in my neighborhood and what do I do? The best way to do is to get together as a community. And that's what gives you strength. It gives you voice. It gives you access, because at the end of the day, the elected officials need to hear from the residents, from the stakeholders, from the business owners of each community, and ask them what they really want. And this is the way to do it. This is the way to do it. You get public hearings, you get together. It's a lot of work, right, Steve?
It is, but it's not, the hardest part is getting started, right? And finding the common ground, finding what connects everyone. Because I think the philosophy that's been present, whether it was conscious or not, there's issues that are common in a neighborhood where people, agree, hey, we need these new trash cans in the neighborhood where there's a lot of illegal dumping. There's so few trash cans. That was something easy. It was low-hanging fruit. And those are the things that build relationships. They build, camaraderie. That's what allows people to start having those honest, open conversations where they're not afraid to kind of broach the harder topics, right? And I think that was, in retrospect, the smartest thing that we did was we identified the things that were immediate concerns, that were about, safety and security and cleanliness and, just the basic things that speak to quality of life. And by starting there, it opened up the possibility of talking about more long-term improvements.
And that's wonderful. And involving people that have been living and working and playing in the community for decades. Steve, I want to thank you so much for your time. We're definitely going to be watching out for that vote coming up and all the wonderful things that are coming up in Wynwood Norte. And definitely, I encourage everybody to follow Wynwood CEA so that you can know when the vote is coming up and all the great things that are coming up. And there are a lot of renderings on there about what Wynwood Norte could look like if we do some responsible development that helps the entire community.
That's right. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Please share this video with anybody that you think could be interested in the future of the city of Miami. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.